Human rights are women's rights, and women's rights are human rights once and for all.
There was no question that that was the most important moment and sentence that was being said, and became central to the whole Beijing Women's Conference.
I remember it felt very exciting, almost like a Woodstock for women or something. It was breaking new ground.
It was the biggest gathering of governments which committed to gender equality.
It was just completely transformational for me. It was this sort of pivot point where all of a sudden the path appeared.
I was there, and it changed me. I'm Sally Field. The 4th UN Women's Conference in Beijing inspired me to take a bigger role in women's rights. We've made great strides over the past 20 years, but a vast distance lies ahead. The women you are about to meet are true global leaders, groundbreakers, innovators, agents of change. We began our journey in China with Peggy Liu, a leading voice in the environmental movement. Peggy is taking steps to make a more green China and in turn help our planet. She brings together the best minds to create innovative and sustainable solutions for China and the world.
We're in the midst of a huge urbanization boom in China. 40 years of building city after city. But what happens to these places? What happens to the soul of our city? You've really seen nothing like it until you land in China and you take a look at the skyline.
To deal with China's growing pains from unprecedented economic growth, Peggy Liu, an MIT-educated engineer, started JUICE, or Joint U.S.-China Collaboration on Clean Energy.
JUICE is a nonprofit organization, really a volunteer organization of some of the top experts around the world who want to help China go green as fast as possible.
Peggy brings together top international experts and Chinese officials to discuss new ideas and technologies to solve China's environmental problems. Peggy's upbringing and heritage helped her move seamlessly across cultures.
Just being born Chinese in America has helped me figure out how to be a cultural bridge.
Her first major accomplishment was to accelerate the adoption of smart grid in China.
Because it allows us to put more solar and wind energy onto a traditional grid. It reduces the need for buildup of power plants. Since we introduced this to China, China has really become the leader in investing in smart grid technologies around the world.
Peggy began promoting clean energy in China, but over the years has expanded her work.
Livability is the single biggest challenge. We need to make sure that we have shared spaces for these tens of millions of people that are coming into China's cities.
In order to accomplish this, JUICE reaches out to mayors, as Peggy explained in a recent TED Talk.
In China, one of the most effective channels is to teach government leaders about how they can build the China dream as they're building new cities, as they're building 226 cities with 1 million or more people. So now the power of this is that in a short amount of time we've been able to reach out to over 900 mayors, and these mayors might have 1 million people, they might have 30 million people in one single city.
Mayors can impact the environmental policies in China in the short term, but the long-term sustainability will depend on the actions of future generations.
Before you add any sugar, try it.
We can teach children how to make a huge impact in climate change through their stomachs. So we created a new way to eat, or teaching them how to eat in a way that's good for you and good for the planet. As a mother, like hopefully every parent, I do feel a personal responsibility to make a change in the world, to leave a better world for my kids and their kids.
To Peggy, China's crisis is both personal and urgent.
I know you've heard and seen these ugly pictures of pollution in China, and yes, this is affecting the rest of the world. 25% of the particulate matter in Los Angeles, for example, is drifting there from China. So we know that we need to win this battle on pollution. We need to win this battle on clean energy. But to do that, we really need to learn how to capture the essence and the beauty of Chinese heritage while we chase this urbanization and modernization.
Perhaps bamboo, which is fast growing, strong, and beautiful, is the best metaphor for Peggy's vision for China.
Bamboo is really symbolic of the type of nature that we need to preserve in the cities as we urbanize. We need to bring to life the soul of bamboo, but in our concrete jungles. The single step that led me on this journey was actually an accidental one. Chinese have this saying, it's called yuanfen, or fate, and I really feel like juice has been my calling.
Katie Myler founded Liberia's first tuition-free school for underprivileged girls. Building educational infrastructure in Liberia was challenge enough, but she soon faced something more formidable: Ebola. A great leader presses on in even the most difficult of situations. That's exactly what Katie did during the epidemic. Fighting on the front lines against Ebola was worth the risk because it meant protecting her girls.
I think that no matter where you go in the world, we are humanity and we're all the same. Each of us has a calling in our life, and for whatever reason, I was brought to Liberia when I was 23 and I saw a need that I knew that I could do something about, and I couldn't turn my back on it. Liberia is a beautiful place, but it's full of struggle. It was a country that has been devastated by war.
In post-war Liberia, 2/3 of the country lives in poverty. Only 35% of children are in school, and 42% suffer chronic malnutrition.
You know, I think I do see myself oftentimes in these kids, and whether that's right or wrong, it's the truth. I think that's empathy has a lot to do with, you know, what drives me. And I grew up poor in America, but despite the poverty that we lived in, there were safety nets.
Katie started the More Than Me organization in Liberia to provide some of the support she had.
It's about living for something bigger than just yourself.
You studying hard? Yes. I want to see people reading plenty. It's important you can read well. If you read, you can teach yourself anything you want.
We focus on the most vulnerable young girls in Liberia, specifically in a slum called West Point. It has one of the highest rates of you know, child exploitation, sexual exploitation in West Africa. We have our own academy for these young girls. Our mission was really to make sure that when they graduate that they have real choices. They can decide what comes next for their own lives. We believe that no young girl should be on the streets, you know, when her biggest dream is to go to school.
As More Than Me Academy wrapped up its inaugural school year, the Ebola outbreak hit and shut it down.
There's a baby on the verge of death.
Katie turned her school into a first response unit to aid Ebola victims at ground zero.
I had spent 6 months on the front lines fighting in the community. People were afraid. Businesses shut down. International organizations left. It was scary. You know, I was afraid for the lives of our students. To be honest with you, I was afraid that Liberian existence was at risk. So we coordinated ambulance responses and worked with the Ministry of Health to hire nurses and medical staff.
I will come and get you. You will be okay, okay?
We rescued and took care of orphans that had been abandoned.
Take care of you. All right.
Ambulances took as long as 4 days to reach Ebola victims. Katie cut that time down to 30 minutes.
When I talk about Ebola, it's still pretty raw. There's definitely moments that will never leave me for the rest of my life. One was this little boy named Charlie. I remember, you know, I left people laying outside of the holding center just dying. I felt like vomiting. I felt like I had to go back, so I did. I went to the grocery store and I bought ice cream and I bought toys, and I went back later that night and I went looking for Charlie. We handed out ice cream and toys and sang and prayed with people as they were dying, squashing through the vomit and the blood. And I found Charlie, and I put a blanket on him. It was time to go, and I was like, I can't leave him here. And so I left, and I never saw him again.
In the wake of Ebola, Katie's looking beyond the epidemic to help aid Liberia's recovery.
What's scarier than Ebola is what happened before Ebola and what will continue to happen after Ebola is out of the news. You know, unless you fix the infrastructure of the country, starting with basic education, nothing is going to change. You're just treating symptoms.
Katie's focus continues to be on education.
I'm working with everything that I have to make sure that we rebuild education in Liberia so that we can protect our girls and the women of Liberia long term. It's about coming together with different people for, you know, and joining hands to make sure that we do everything that we can, you know, to create a more beautiful world. I want to know that my life has purpose. I believe we all have a blinking light inside of us, and that light leads the way, and I'm following that light. I'm gonna take you places, show you faces that you've never dreamed.
Sharon Bhagwan Rolls was in Beijing in 1995. Galvanized by the experience, she has made it her life's mission to give the women of Fiji a voice. Sharon provides women with access to radio so they can broadcast and promote gender equality. She empowers women and girls to make decisions so they can be heard on the island and around the world. Sharon is an agent of change.
We love this country. We've got from the beaches to beautiful mountains, you know, we've got this amazing geographical structure that you don't have to go anywhere beyond Fiji to enjoy the Pacific.
Fiji's landscape may be beautiful, but it has one of the largest gender gaps in the world, according to the 2014 Global Gender Gap Report.
Decisions aren't being made for or by women. If you look at all our governance structures, traditional, local, even parliamentary, we haven't seen any change in addressing the gaps in decision making. So that's a big problem politically.
A problem rooted in the patriarchal society of Fiji.
We are women, we stay in the village, we'll respect the elders. When they talk, we have to keep our mouth shut. Yeah, we want to be empowered because as women, we got all these powers, we got the talent, we can talk, we can raise our voice to be heard.
To give women a chance to express their viewpoints and share their stories, Sharon launched a community radio initiative in 2004.
On Fem Talk 89 FM, I'm Sharon Bhagwan Rolls, and it's time for a special program, our Lambasa Women...
Sharon used a simple yet powerful tool, the suitcase radio. It's both portable and easy to use.
It's literally a whole radio station in a suitcase that weighs up to about 20 kilos, and we've been able to travel around Fiji into rural centers and taking our community radio station to women in the communities. It's meant that the local issues have been discussed. It's just given women that chance to talk, to speak out, to overcome those traditional barriers of participation and decision-making, and to value their voice, and for us to demonstrate that you don't need to be highly educated to have something to say. Regardless of who you are, your voice counts.
My issues, there are times I face discrimination. When I talk, they seem to think, oh, she's disabled, who is she to talk to me? And there are times I cried, and it's just a big challenge for me.
Sharon turned the suitcase radio into a platform for programming central to Fiji's women's movement.
If I just look at women's programs, you suddenly had women's programs with DJs or personalities reading recipes out of Women's Weekly, rather than we still needed assistance in terms of the development issues. So the poverty of information is that the airwaves not being dedicated to the kind of information that could liberate women, that could alleviate some of the poverty that they experience.
We are left out. We need more workshops whereby women to be taught how to live in a society where issues like budget to live on a $20 to $30 a week, to live on what they can produce, right? To share one another's burden.
Thank you. And you have been listening to Femme Talk 89 FM, coming to you live from Nandi.
Today, a network of volunteers is taking an active lead in FemLink Pacific and its radio station.
And it's been bridging the divide between what's in the capital city and not being heard, and that opportunity for women within their communities from where they live to talk about issues of local priority, but when you connect it all is a national agenda. I firmly believe that the more women are participating, not just in decision making within the women's movement, but in broader civil society, in all governance structures, we can have a more peaceful country and a more peaceful world.
From her earliest days in Japan, Dr. Sachiko Kuno has trailblazed her own path and created her own opportunities. Dr. Kuno's love for science and sheer determination drove her to break societal barriers. She co-founded a multi-million-dollar pharmaceutical business that spans from her native Japan to her home in the United States. Now, Dr. Kuno pays her good fortune forward to inspire the next generation of innovators.
My journey started in Kyoto. I think Kyoto is a traditional city, but at the same time, very innovative, creative city. Kyoto has some sort of power to inspire people to think about something new.
Dr. Sachiko Kuno infuses Kyoto's power into everything that she does. Trained as a biochemist, Sachiko and her husband, Dr. Ueno, discovered life-changing glaucoma drugs. She defied the expectations of her times, beginning at Kyoto University.
I entered into the Faculty of Engineering and Technology, so that I was only one female among the class, and the 50 people. Expectation in the 1970s for the girl or the women in Japan is definitely to grow as a good woman and to be the good wife and to be the good mother. I felt there's some sort of loneliness or that to be isolated from the other people.
After relocating to the United States, Sachiko and her husband established successful biotech companies. What began as a way to express their love for art and science grew into the creation of the S&R Foundation. The S&R Foundation in Washington, D.C. inspires innovation and empowers excellence in arts, science, and social entrepreneurship.
So this is the ecosystem which can be given to the young social entrepreneur to think about and how they can achieve the challenges and to solve 21st century problem. We are supporting fearless social entrepreneurs and who are thinking to change the world.
Dianna Sierra is one of these fearless social entrepreneurs. She is a fellow of the Foundation's Halcyon Incubator, helping those looking to change the world for the better. Dianna created the social enterprise Be Girl to overcome menstruation stigma and empower women and girls. Be Girl designs affordable and reusable sanitary products for women and girls everywhere, including these students in Ethiopia.
Menstruation can be a very simple thing for some people who have access to proper management materials, but if you don't have them, it could be a burden, a huge burden. So we want to have a better understanding of the type of challenges that girls face and make things better.
I had a dream, I had a vision. I wanted to keep girls in school.
You said that you miss class, right? Where you have your menstruation. Tell me how many days you miss and how and why.
Some people I always miss like 3 days.
Sachiko's S&R Foundation is helping make dreams, like Dianna's, a reality.
Here you have an infrastructure, you have the business plan, you have the chance to pitch to other people and show them your project, get advice. It's an amazing platform for entrepreneurs to really take their ideas to the next level.
I was supported by many people when I was young, and many people who believe in my talent and capability and potential. So I just want to do the same thing to the next generation.
India's infant mortality rate is among the world's highest. As a child in Mumbai's public housing, Dr. Aparna Hegde saw firsthand how a woman's health declines if she can't get access to information. Her novel approach turns the universal mobile phone into a prenatal care device for expectant mothers. Dr. Hegde's use of modern technology is closing the gaps in India's healthcare system so that women and children can thrive.
This is my favorite spot in Mumbai. You know why that is? It's a great equalizer. It is a spot that gives both the rich and the poor solace. You'll have the biggest millionaire sitting next to the poorest person from the slum of Dharavi, and they'll be sitting in silent communion.
But the rest of Mumbai is marred by inequality. Dr. Aparna Hegde realized this early in life, growing up in a lower middle-class neighborhood as a daughter of migrant parents.
The one striking part of Mumbai city is extreme disparity of the human existence. However, it's a city where every dream is possible. The only thing you need to do is to keep going. If you stop, you're mowed down.
Despite the odds, Aparna kept moving and became a doctor specializing in urogynecology.
The city of Mumbai gave me everything, and I really want to give back.
Aparna decided to give back to Mumbai by addressing the huge divide in healthcare information available to the haves and have-nots. While working in an overcrowded public hospital, she realized that information can be a lifesaver for pregnant women living in the slums.
When we were sitting in these antenatal OPDs and they were extremely crowded, 200 women waiting outside for us, and I had no time to counsel them. And I would see that because of lack of access to counseling, women would not come back for antenatal care and only come back to die in labor.
The lack of information to India's urban poor is a major reason the country has high rates of maternal and infant mortality.
A woman dies in childbirth every 10 minutes in India. 2 newborns die every 3 minutes in India. More than 300,000 infants do not live for more than 1 day after birth. So I realized that, I had to do something to give them information. And then I suddenly realized that there are, maybe these women had phones. There are more phones in India than toilets. So why couldn't I use a phone to reach across to her in a cost-effective manner with the information she required?
To provide simple yet life-saving information to poor pregnant women and mothers with mobile phones, Aparna started the non-profit Arman and a program called M-Mitra, or Mobile Mitra.
Mobile Mitra is an automated voice call service that sends timed and targeted preventive care information directly to the phones of the enrolled women through pregnancy and infancy and their chosen time slot and language. We also have a call center. If a phone number has changed or a time slot has changed, a woman can give a call to our call center and a call center personnel calls her back.
फ़ोन से मुझे पता चलता है कि क्या होने वाला है क्या नहीं, तो इससे टेंशन नहीं आता।
यम मित्रा से हमको मतलब मेरे वाइफ को तो बड़ा बेनिफिट हुआ है, मतलब उसको पता चलता है कि क्या-क्या होने वाला है, क्या-क्या केयर करना पड़ता है।
Access to preventive care information and access to health care is a fundamental right that I would like every woman and child of India to have access to.
To realize her dreams, Aparna has expanded the program to rural India.
So we are going right now to Solapur. Solapur is a small town in rural Maharashtra. It is around 450 kilometers from Mumbai. The need for our services is more in rural India. The hospitals are very far. Transportation to the hospitals is very difficult. And when you go to the hospital, care is apathetic. So we convert village women into health entrepreneurs. So they go home to home and provide this care after work hours. And these health entrepreneurs are taught to do antenatal and infancy care, along with performing diagnostic investigations like blood pressure, hemoglobin, urine test. In rural India, in addition to voice calls, we've also added animations, because animations help involve the whole family in the healthcare of the mother and child.
In just 6 months, Mitra has reached over 80,000 women. Aparna plans to reach 1 million women in the next 3 years.
And when I went back to Maharashtra this time, and some Arogya Sakhi came and told me that she had named her child Maitra, because she knew that Mobile Mitra had actually ensured that her child was healthy at the time of birth. It really inspires me and makes me feel hopeful for what is possible, because for all India's problems, things are possible here.
These women from around the world are leading the way to challenge the status quo and motivate the next generation. They're doing their part to close the gender gap, empower women, and create a healthier future. The 4th World Conference on Women in Beijing ignited a movement. These women embody the progress made over the last 20 years and continue to be part of that journey. A journey of 1,000 miles begins with a single step.
I think one of my proudest moments is that I was lucky enough to go to Beijing, to be part of that journey, and to now know that the journey has been moving ahead.
Equality can't happen overnight. There are steps. One of the first major steps is educating, providing education, literacy to women and girls all over the world.
If women are empowered and they're included, economic development will have a much, much better chance to advance.
We are still on this road. Some of us are farther ahead in the progress we've made in our countries. Others are farther behind, but we're all on this road together.